These are the best blessing stones in the game. Let's talk about it. What's good, YouTube? NoGoodEman here, coming to you today with a blessing stone tier list video. So guys, now that the new year has started, we got a bunch of blessing stones on the table. We recently got a bunch. We're talking INTUIT and Desire. So this video is going to be ranking all the empowerment blessing stones at legendary. So with this video, you guys should be able to know what's the best blessing stones to have if you guys have it at legendary. I know getting blessing stones at legendary is complete RNG, but I want to highlight some game changes for you guys. So with this video, you guys will know each and every blessing stone ranked in this plane. But before we talk a single blessing stone, make sure you guys leave a like on the video. If you're new, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss a live or an upload. Now let's go ahead and explain the tiers per usual. In the S tier, we have our broken. Now I want you to pay attention because every letter in broken is literally capitalized, meaning that these are the absolute craziest blessing stones to have at legendary. If you guys have this at legendary, you will see immediate returns in every single game mode you play. In the A tier though, we have insane blessing stones. In the A tier, these are really blessing stones that can be crazy in specific game modes. Now with the S and the A tiers, we'll definitely talk how they differ in a bit later, but our B beneficial tier, that's going to be blessing stones that can definitely help you out if you do have it at legendary. Definitely blessing stones you don't want to glance over. And then in the C tier, we do have our sleepers. So blessing stones that people really don't use too often, but can actually provide some good use if you're a little bit of a skill-based player. And then in the D tier, we do have our average. So blessing stones people really don't use more often. Honestly, as a game developer, you have to create bad blessing stones, because if every blessing stone was, let's say, S tier or broken, Solo Rise probably wouldn't be a good game. So with that, let's go ahead and start with our average tier. The only average tier blessing stone, funny enough, that I'm going to bring up there is going to be speed. And now hear me out here. Speed is going to increase your speed on the field by 20%, and it's also going to reduce your dash cooldown by 20%. And honestly, I don't see this as too much of anything above average as a blessing stone. Now I will say that getting your dashes back faster is very good, but I feel like the devs are shadow nerfing the dash cooldown anyway. Like maybe like several updates ago, if the dash cooldown was still the same, then a legendary speed could go into maybe a sleeper tier. But as of right now, guys, speed just doesn't have a lot of use as a blessing stone. Swiftness, its counterpart, is way better. That'll almost reset your dash cooldown if you guys do a dash. I know that's complete RNG, but there are so many other ways to get dashes back. Think the hunter Woojin Chul. If you guys are allowed to run support characters, Woojin Chul gives you 2 extra dashes, and that man is also going to reset all your dashes. So that's something to note. Definitely Woojin Chul, if you run him as a support, that's like running speed and swiftness like all in one. So definitely speed gets the average category. And that's actually going to be it for our D tier or our average. Now let's go ahead and move up to the C or the sleepers. The first sleeper we're going to talk about is going to be Monarch's Domain. Now with Monarch's Domain, honestly, this is definitely a sleeper, but the effect is when you guys summon a shadow, Monarch's Domain, the effect will apply. Basically, this is going to create a circular domain, and your shadows, which basically you have to summon your shadows to activate this Monarch's Domain, but when you guys summon a shadow, your Monarch's Domain will activate and your shadow's attack will increase within the domain by 100%, and then your shadows will also deal damage equal to 100% of your attack every second to enemies within the domain. So honestly, this is very much a sleeper, because as Sun Jinwoo gets stronger and stronger, we're gonna see this domain get pretty much brought up maybe another tier, right? Obviously right now our Sun Jinwoo is maybe like 40k attack, but imagine if our Sun Jinwoo got up to maybe like 100k attack. Now I know saying that right now sounds crazy, but keep in mind we are nowhere near the end game of solo leveling as a manhwa, so it's just something to note. I do think when we do get stronger with Sun Jinwoo, we're going to see Monarch's Domain become a very much useful blessing stone in the near future. And I have been testing it out on the side. I really want to release like a Monarch's Domain video, but as of right now, I'm not seeing any conclusive evidence making this meta or something to really run on the regular. The next blessing stone to talk about is definitely going to be that Boss Slayer. Now with Boss Slayer, honestly, this effect works like a double-edged sword. So your damage dealt to bosses will increase by 20%, but the cooldown of your dash also increases by 20%. So while you guys do face boss monsters, you do have added damage bonus. You're also going to have less dash opportunities, meaning you're going to have less extreme evasion opportunities, meaning you're going to have less shadow step opportunities. So while you are getting a 20% damage increase, you're almost losing out on your shadow step uptime just because you're going to have a lack of dashes. And let's say you bring this to maybe a Proof of Strong, dude, you're going to be in purgatory, right? Because you're going to have like 0 dashes half the time. You're going to be on dash cooldown. You're going to probably have like 2 dashes a minute. Honestly, Boss Slayer is definitely still a sleeper because in many cases, in Battle for the Time, you can definitely still run this Blessing Stone, and easy content that you can clear on the regular, you can still definitely run this Blessing Stone. Think instants, encore dungeons, and everything in between. Now let's go ahead and talk about a Blessing Stone that's not really talked about. Let's go ahead and bring up Swift Strike. Now, when you guys successfully use Extreme Evasion, this Blessing Stone will boost your damage increase for 16% for 5 seconds. Now, definitely, this is a weirder Blessing Stone, and it's definitely going in the sleeper, but this is a skill-based Blessing Stone for sure. So if you know what you're doing when you run this Blessing Stone, for any, skilled player, this could be maybe an A tier, maybe a B tier, but as a community-wide, I feel like this is going to be like a sleeper because, again, you just get 5 seconds. It does have a cooldown of 10 seconds, so really, it's going to be hard to really get, let's say, burst damage, which is like the most amount of damage you can get in a short window of time. You can incorporate Swift Strike into your burst damage, unfortunately, because when you guys do use Extreme Evasion, if that full animation of Extreme Evasion plays out and let's say you shadow step, that's maybe half of the 5 seconds down already. So Swift Strike definitely could be useful if you, let's say, you Extreme Evade, shadow step, pop an ult, the newer ult even, but as of right now, it's going in the sleeper tier. And that's going to be it for our C tier or our sleepers. Now let's go ahead and move on up to the beneficial category, bringing up Tidal Demon Slayer. Now with this one, your total MP will increase by 1200 and you will recover 5 of your MP every second. Honestly, an insane Blessing Stone that can definitely be useful to you guys. Right now, we don't have a lot of large mana consuming skills within the game, so definitely this can be a beneficial Blessing Stone. Let's say if you're running things like Mana Rampage, if you're running things like Desire, you can see a lot of good returns with this Blessing Stone. But honestly, this Blessing Stone definitely can vary, right? And we don't have any skills that, do DPS based off the amount of MP we have. If we did, then I could see this sneaking up into the A tier, maybe even to the S tier. But right now, still a very good Blessing Stone. You can definitely get a lot of benefits from this, and you definitely can utilize this. But a better title than Demon Slayer might just be Wolf Assassin. Move on over because this Blessing Stone will increase the damage you deal to normal monsters by 20%. Now, definitely for you guys thinking this might be a little bit higher than what you might think you'd put it at, I want to say that in Soul Leveling Arise, if we look at the story content, if we look at just all the gameplay that you use Sunjinu in, you face a lot of normal monsters, and I mean a lot of normal monsters. So when you're doing things like wave battle, this comes into play, right? If you're doing a wave battle, if you're doing missions that don't have a boss and you're not running Wolf Assassin, I don't know what to say for you, right? So honestly, 20% is insane. There is no other effect that's just gonna give you 20% damage to regular mobs. So you definitely wanna use this Wolf Assassin if you guys have it. But what's a title better than that? Well, it could be the Conqueror of Adversity because I'm moving it right alongside of it. Honestly, this is probably one of the more complex title-based Blessing Stones you'll see. But guys, when your HP decreases by 25%, or really every time this happens, your attack, defense, and HP will increase by 5%, and this can stack up to 3 times. So at the legendary variant, let's say you lose 75% HP anywhere throughout your battle, a long drawn out battle, you're looking at a 15% permanent increase to your attack, defense, and HP to your Sunjinu. Honestly, that's pretty insane. That's something to think about. Mid-game, mid-buffs, right? Within the, I guess, story mode or within a boss battle, you can definitely see good returns from that. So a permanent buff definitely gets in the beneficial tier. Now, Conqueror is a permanent buff, but let's talk about a conditional buff. Move on over for Chains of Blood. Honestly, an insane blessing stone, and I do almost want to put it in the insane category, but honestly, as of late, haven't been running it too much. And honestly, with this blessing stone, if solo leveling was the same difficulty it was about 4 months ago, this might even sneak into the S tier. But the truth of the matter is, some content is just a little bit too easy to clear. Now, I'm not speaking from my whale point of view, right? Because I still know how some content does play out, but within the community, I think we can all agree that a lot of content is being pandered for the newer players for a lot of free to play and things alike. While that is okay, let's go ahead and talk about Chains of Blood. Basically, this chains gimmick with your attack damage will increase to 30% equal of your lost HP ratio, but your damage taken also increases by 10%. So really, this is almost like a skill-based blessing stone. If you're facing a hard boss, you can see a lot of good returns from this, but again, it's almost like a double-edged sword, right? Because you're getting that attack buff based off of the HP you lose, meaning you're gonna have to go into a boss battle with the intention of losing HP. So you're gonna have to let yourself get hit almost, or you're just gonna have to let yourself get, you know, tagged by some debuffs, whatever the case may be. And definitely, if you know what you're doing, this can definitely be a good blessing stone, a blessing stone that you could, you know, argue that's A tier. But if you don't know what you're doing, if you're really too good about handling low HP, then for a lot of you guys, this might even sneak into the average or the sleepers. But for me, for the community, I think that Chains of Blood is definitely a beneficial blessing stone. But this next blessing stone is so useful, it's Fatal. Guys, Fatal Strike is going to be the last blessing stone in the beneficial category. Honestly, I didn't think Fatal Strike would go this high, and if I made this blessing stone tier list maybe like 2 months ago, definitely Fatal Strike would be in like the average category. I'm not gonna lie, guys, but as Fatal Strike reads, you can quickly take down enemies with a fatal blow. Your target's break gauge instantly will decrease by 5% every time you land a critical hit. Guys, that's almost insane. That means if you guys land 20 critical hits, you basically will entirely break your opponent's break gauge. That is honestly one of the more crazier blessing stones within the game. At, you know, heroic or rare, Fatal Strike honestly is not a good blessing stone, but at the legendary tier, a lot of people will see good returns. A lot of people saw good returns when the Workshop of Brilliant Light hard mode Baron clears event was up. Fatal Strike was the name of the game, and I do predict that Fatal Strike will probably be the name of the game for the Deimos WOBL when hard Deimos comes out and it's like a 3,000 clear event or 7,000 clear event, whatever that event is. Look for Fatal Strike. That might be one of the best blessing stones to use when you do see those flame ticks. And then we just talked about it, flame ticks. Anytime you see flame ticks and you're dealing with bosses in the red, you might want to bring Fatal Strike because that's going to help break their gauges even faster. And that's going to be it for our beneficial category. Now let's go ahead and move up, talk about our A tier or our insane tier. The first tier, or the first blessing stone in this tier, is going to be Assassin's Prophecy. This one is just going to increase your back attack damage by 16%. Why is this insane though, you might ask? Well, every time you guys extreme evade, you have the ability to shadow step, meaning that every time you guys activate shadow step, you're literally going to be starting behind your opponent, meaning that if you're properly playing solo leveling Arise, Assassin's Prophecy should always be almost active. You should always be getting a lot of DPS from using this skill. Now, of course, if you're pairing up with weapons that require more than one hit, maybe like DKD, you know, where you gotta, you know, attack once, then attack again, it might not be the best thing. And then of course, you know, angles come into play, but it's still an insane blessing stone. If you know what you're doing, definitely can get a lot of use from this. And then a blessing stone that works kind of like Assassin's Prophecy, Advanced Dagger Techniques, definitely is a sleeper, but it's still insane, so it's not going to go in the sleeper tiers actually. But guys, when you guys use this blessing stone, when you attack an HP who has 70% or less of their HP, their damage, the damage you deal to them will increase by 14%. That's honestly an insane effect to get. And anytime your opponent's HP is just below 70, now I'm getting an increased damage amount. Honestly, kind of reminds me of that Executioner set, and definitely you want to rock it kind of like it's an Executioner set. So with that, anytime you face a boss, you're trying to get their HP to 0 anyway. So a blessing stone like this, definitely insane, definitely can help you out in that regard. But this next blessing stone will help you out so bad you'll go on a rampage. Mana Rampage is going to be the next blessing stone we talk about. This one will increase your attack by 16%, but your skill mana consumption will also increase by 12%. Now, Honestly, not a terrible blessing stone to run. Again, you're getting a permanent 16% attack increase, mind you, and all that's happening back is that your CO mana consumption will also increase. Now, for lower, Sun Jinus, you might see your mana getting drained a lot, but once you guys get to a higher level, once you get to an endgame Sun Jinu, remember, just like in the anime, he's gonna have a bunch of mana, so he almost will never worry about, things like Mana Rampage. So a lot of players are running Mana Rampage, and when you guys get this at Legendary, a lot of people get this as one of their first Legendaries. You'll definitely see immediate returns with this. I mean, a 16% attack boost is crazy, and a lot of blessing stones actually boost your attack around 16%, and the next one actually boosts your attack by 16%, but it's conditional. But let's go ahead and talk about it. Talking about double-edged sword. Now, I'm gonna bring this to the right of Mana Rampage because honestly, these two are interchangeable, but I do argue that double-edged sword is a little bit less meta than Mana Rampage, just because you're gonna have to, always hit an opponent to have double-edged sword active. Now, if you're facing, a hard boss, if you're facing wave battles, then you can definitely see use. So I could keep it like this. I can move it back, whatever you prefer. Anyways, double-edged sword itself, when your attacks hit, your attack will increase by 4% for 10 seconds, but the attack of your target you hit will also increase by 3%, stacking up to 4 times, meaning you can have at max uptime a 16% attack increase, and then your opponent will also have a 12% attack increase. So definitely looking at both these effects, they both give you 16% attack increase, but Mana Rampage will just get a lot of more of your MP, but double-edged sword actually boosts the attack of your opponent. So definitely this could be risky if you're facing like really hard content and like you're getting one tapped and you have double-edged sword equipped. This might be why. So definitely look at that. Maybe sub Mana Rampage. But have you guys ever been low on mana and desired more? Well, desire might help you out there because this blessing stone has the ability to increase your attack by 24% if your Jinu has MP under 60%. So also, at the start of the battle, this actually will start your Jinu with 60% MP, meaning you guys will have 24% attack increase to start. Honestly, an insane blessing stone. You 1000% want to run this, but definitely it has its flaws, right? Because if Sun Jinu gains the MP recovery effect, Desire will move the attack increase effect for 10 seconds. So any type of MP recovery, there's skills that do MP recovery, there's hunters, there's buffs that does MP recovery. So definitely you guys more likely cannot run this with magnifying slashes Sonic Stream, and if you could, man, that would be broken. But definitely the devs made it so you guys actually couldn't run Sonic Stream with this one, and in that regard, it's definitely still an insane blessing stone. You could 1000% argue that it's a broken one, but everybody is starting to get hip to the intelligence meta, so I think it's a little bit too early to call it a broken blessing stone as of now. Now, the next blessing stone to talk about is going to be We Are One. Now, this blessing stone is definitely a skill-based blessing stone, and not really a skill-based blessing stone, but it's a tactic-based blessing stone. Now, if there are 2 or more support hunters with the same element on Sun Jinu's team, it'll increase Sun Jinu and all the support units attack, defense, and HP by 5%. But if there's 3 support hunters with the exact same element, instead you'll get an additional 5% on top of that 5%. So if you're running, let's say 3 fire units together, if you're running 3 water units, 3 light units, 3 wind, 3 dark, whatever the case, if you're running 3 of the same hunters with Sun Jinu in any game mode, all of them are getting an attack, defense, and HP increase of 10%. This is an insane blessing stone because you can literally take this among other game modes, right? Honestly, the best way or the best place you guys see this being more utilized is things like Guild Boss, things like Power of Destruction. But honestly, this still gives everybody a 10% attack, defense, and HP increase, meaning if you guys are doing story mode content and let's say you're running 3 fire hunters for, let's say, the Jeju Island raid, you can definitely still see good returns by running We Are One. Let's say if you had maybe double-edged sword on rare, but you had We Are One on legendary, that's your perfect opportunity to run this blessing stone at legendary, guys. You definitely will see great rewards. And that's going to be it for our 8 insane tier. Now let's go ahead and move on because we've got broken blessing stones to talk about. The first one we're going to talk about is definitely going to be that swiftness. Now, swiftness is a blessing stone that I honestly didn't think it'd be in the empowerment category, but you're able to move incredibly swiftly. Not only will you guys get an additional dash, meaning you guys will have 4 dashes throughout the entire battle, but there's a 30% chance your dash cooldown will reset upon dashing. Do you know how insane that is? Theoretically, you could just dash almost endlessly. Of course, the chance of that is probably super minuscule, but definitely there's at least one player out there that probably ran this blessing stone and dashed and never ran out of a dash, or you didn't run out of a dash for quite some time. And I definitely would love to see a video like that. But honestly, when you need things like extreme evasion, when you need things like shadow step, swiftness is definitely a blessing stone people look for, people look to, especially things like Proof of the Strong, where it nerfs your dash cooldown. You definitely would need things like swiftness or things like Wu Jin Chul, but this is definitely a broken blessing stone. From there, let's go ahead and bring up Sharp Perception. Now, honestly, I have never ran this blessing stone at Legendary. I really just got it at Legendary recently, but I have known the use of Sharp Perception for quite some time. So let's talk about crits, because your critical hit rate will increase by 3% for 8 seconds when your attacks hit. So that can stack up to 6 times, meaning you guys can see a 18% critical hit rate uptime if you guys have Sharp Perception active for most of the time. And if you're doing a lot of hits, guys, you will definitely need this. Sharp Perception would be super insane to run with like a beast set in things like Workshop of Brilliant Light. If you're doing hard mode Baron, hard mode Vulcan, hard mode Deimos, dude, you're gonna really want to run Sharp Perception, because that's gonna give you the ability to have better uptime on your beast stacks. That's going to give you the ability to just hit more critical hit rates, right? That'll, you know, put your critical hit damage into play now, and your Sun Jinwoo will just be so much more broken. But what's more broken than that, man? Weakness detection. Now, with weakness detection, this will increase the damage dealt to targets that have an elemental weakness by 20%. That's pretty much it, as the name entails. Now with Sun Jinwoo, almost all of his weapons have a weakness. Almost all bosses he faces have a weakness. So if you're, you know, strategic and smart and you have the right weapons, the right opportunity, weakness detection at Legendary is 1000% a blessing stone everybody runs, guys. This is probably one of the more desired blessing stones, because honestly, you're just trying to complete content, and if you're trying to complete content, you would definitely want to run the recommended element. And if you're going to run the recommended element, please run this recommended blessing stone. Weakness detection is going to get you guys from 0 to hero. Now, for those annoying bosses with break gauges, Pulverize makes it so they're not so annoying. Honestly, this at Legendary might be one of the most insane blessing stones, but definitely it's earned its right, because the power of the break effects you apply to your enemies will increase by 30%, and then the damage you deal to targets affected by the break effect increases by 30%. So you guys will have the ability to basically deal additional break damage, and when your target enters a break state, you basically will deal even more damage then, right? So people bring Pulverize to things like Power of Destruction, in which that dragon has literally no break gauge, yet if you're running Pulverize, you can see scores into the billions. So that's just to mind you that break state applies with Pulverize, guys. So you definitely want to utilize that. There are bosses that have break states but no break gauges. So if there are bosses like that, Pulverize you'll definitely see great returns with, and definitely that first effect, the power of the break effects you apply to your enemies increases by 30%, is insane, guys. I've had Pulverize at Heroic for months, and the second I got it at Legendary, I saw everything increase. All my damage, all my break damage, it was insane. So get this one at Legendary. If you are lucky enough to get this at Legendary, thank the heavens. Now, look at this last 3, guys. Honestly, an insane lineup, but let's go ahead and bring up INTUIT. This is one of the top 3 blessing stones in Soul Leveling Arise. INTUIT is definitely going to play into the intelligence meta that's coming around. So honestly, with this one, it's pretty simple. Your basic attack will increase by 6%, or not 6%, but it will increase by 6 for every 1 point of intelligence you have. This can increase up to a maximum of 1200, meaning if you guys put 200 points of intelligence, which is not a lot for your Sun Jinwoo. If you put that into intelligence, you'll now see a basic attack increase of 1200. This plays perfectly into the meta because things like Sonic Stream is being used more, things like DKD is being used more. So when our basic attacks are being boosted, that just makes it even more broken, guys. I've been running into it. I've been a part of the intelligence meta, and let me tell you guys, you want to get a part of the intelligence meta as well. So definitely, if you have the ability to get into it at legendary, you will see great returns. But speaking of return, let's talk about a skill that's going to help you return your cooldown. So Reawakening is going to be the second strongest or the second best blessing stone in SLA. This one's going to reduce all your cooldowns by 20%. Honestly, an insane blessing stone to be running, and that's pretty much it. It honestly helps you get your cooldowns back. And if you guys play it with the intelligence meta, mind you, putting points into your intelligence also helps your cooldowns come back. So pairing things like INTUIT and Reawakening just make it even more broken, but Reawakening by itself definitely is a great blessing stone to be using. And then there was one. Bloodlust definitely still will be the #1 blessing stone that you guys do want to look for, do want to utilize, because this one honestly is insane. So when you are hit, it's going to decrease your attacker's attack by 12% for 6 seconds, but when you attack, it'll decrease your target's defense by 12% for 6 seconds. So either way, your attacker will basically be nerfed in which way, whether you're getting hit, whether you're doing the hitting. Sun Jinwoo basically turns into a demon of sorts, right? So with Bloodlust, guys, you have the insane ability to nerf your opponent, whether you're getting hit or whether you are doing the hitting. Like I said, any content can basically be utilized with Bloodlust. In almost every content, you couldn't name a content that uses Sun Jinwoo that you would argue that you don't need Bloodlust for. Honestly, guys, with Bloodlust, one of the greatest blessing stones in the game, please get this and please run it, and don't stop running it if you have it. And with that, what do you guys think of the blessing stone tier list for 2025? Go ahead and leave your thoughts, theories, and comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, and with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Y'all take care. Peace.